Greetings everyone, welcome to Just Advanced, and this is actually I'm going to be showing all of Gukesh's games today. So it's going to be one hell of a ride because first game he's playing with Linear Dominguez. Linear Dominguez is a very strong American grandmaster, and you have to understand that right now I think in his 30s or 40s, and still he's 2700, so he's very very strong. And one thing that you you would be interested to know that he almost came very close right after the opening to actually beating Caruana. But I think somewhere around the end game he lost. But he was just playing absolutely very. I mean, Caruana is like top of the table now, so you have to understand that he's been at his absolute best, and he came very close to beating him. So you have to understand Gukesh has his work cut out for him today, and definitely let's see what he does with the white pieces is actually going to be very very good. So without further ado, let's start with this game. And people have been advising me to actually analyze the games a little slower. uh, I think all I can say to that is I cannot go slow on bookish moves. I'm not going to be analyzing bookish moves, neither I'm going to be showing bookish moves. Somewhere along the line, when you're able to understand all of these tactics, and you come to a certain level, you'll be able to understand what the things that you are saying is for absolute beginners. I cannot show the game like that. It's just too slow for me. It doesn't work out for me, and I'm not going to be showing it like that. It might sound rude to some users, but it's just the way it is, because I'm here analyzing the games of top grandmasters. And when you want that certain experience to be able to understand deep lines, if I'm showing you just basic, very very basic tactics and very of the basic moves in every aspect of every game, I think it would be like 1 hour 30 minutes video, and I don't want to do something like that. So uh, you need to have certain level of tactics understanding and certain level of gameplay is all I can say. But if it hurts some people, it hurts some people. What I think some people will appreciate, because the content here will be good. So without further ado, let's start with this game. We have knight to f3, knight to f6 going for the ready opening. We have b3, d5, and now just going for this bishop to b2, c5, e3, and now just going for g6, c4. And this is very very interesting because he actually Gukesh played this opening. This is like a ready opening Sicilian invitation kind of thing, but you have to understand that he played this against Caruana, in that he played d3, but now he's going for c3. The idea behind this is simply that once you cannot push now. If you go here and you don't play c4, then that push comes in, and your position is just very bad. Like with the white pieces, not something you want to do, because then this is also coming, and what are you going to do about all the things? So that becomes an issue. That's why c3, c4 is very much important in this position. And d3 he played against Caruana, so I think he knew that Dominguez would know about that. So here just d captures, b captures, and after bishop to g7, bishop to e2, and castles, but a very nice move by Dominguez. He goes for b6. Now he's going to fiend ketto the second bishop as well. This bishop is already fiend kettoed, so let's see how that goes. Just d4, and that's the thing. He thought a lot here. I think he thought for like 6 to 7 minutes. That's a lot for a rapid game. I mean, you just have 25 minutes. But then you understand that he played this because he knew that Fabi must have given him some cues to him about that game. So definitely important. C captures, e captures, but just e6, knight to c3, and just bishop to b7, bishop to a3. Now when you play this hanging pawns variation, as it's kind of said, you have to understand that these pawns are going to be very much weak. So what you want to do is get to the middle game, try and get these pawns exchanged, or try to get a like very good advantage, because if these go towards the end game, you're going to be losing these pawns. So you have to be very much careful. It's a risky way, but then you have to understand that he needs a win, because he lost one game yesterday and made two draws. So let's see if it works out for him. And by pushing e3, he made a few dark squares weak here. So definitely that is the idea of bishop to a3, and also going for very nice moves with this and this. So that's also going to be coming soon. Rook to e8, knight to b5, and now just going for this knight to e4. Knight to e4 is a very beautiful move in this position, simply because of the fact that either you could pause the video right now and analyze it, or I could just show it to you. The idea is that once I go here, you have nothing, because now you cannot go here because this knight captures, and you cannot come back because this knight captures. So that is like a trapping the knight, and that's the idea here. Bishop to d3, but now same move doesn't work, because I have bishop captures, switch and in between move, bishop captures on e4, but just a captures. If you capture here, I mean, it's fine for you. I mean, if you don't want to capture that, but here just bishop captures, rook captures was played, so they decided to go the other way. C captures, and just queen to d7. This queen to d7 comes with an attack. Either you could move the bishop, or here here you could play this very nice variation with queen to c1. That comes with an attack. That's what Guki played. Guki went for this queen to c1, and now you have to move the rook back. So rook to a4 was played, and now you could go for a very nice line. Either you could move the bishop back, or you could play this bishop to c6. That's very nice, but bishop to c6 comes with a one issue, that you can see that this pawn is so advanced simply because the fact that it covers all these squares. Queen is covering the d8 d7 square, so you have to understand that this knight is not jumping anywhere anytime soon. So once you give black this kind of setup, you have to understand that that weak knight that is there on b8 doing absolutely nothing, now you can exchange it for the very nice strong bishop. And I think that's why Guki didn't want to play this, because after b captures, now you b captures is very nice, but you could also go for queen captures, and after queen captures, going for an endgame right away. Rook to c8, rook f to c1, g5 h3, h5, and most likely you're just going to play g4. Just trying to understand, but you have to understand that this pawn is going to fall somewhere along the line. You can defend this pawn so much, but if you could go for a very nasty line. I'm just going to show it to you. It's an engine line. H captures, and just bishop captures on d4, but after knight captures, rook captures, now you go for this. But after rook captures, check, king moves. Not just going after this pawn, you just go after the b6 pawn, and after captures, now you just push the pawn, and it looks very scary, but after this the game is absolutely a draw. The king is slowly going to come here, and you're just going to be exchanging all the rooks, all the pawns, and somewhere along the line, when the king makes the king walk, now you just gobble up two of the pawns, and most likely it's going to be a draw. But you have to be very much careful. If you lose this pawn, you have nothing, and 1 against 3 would be actually winning, so you have to be careful. So all of this could have happened, but here in this position, Gukesh decided to go for bishop to e3, bishop to e4, and then you have to understand that maybe this was a little bit better, but I guess I told you that knight is just very weak, and unless you can make something of that knight, it's just going to be remaining there for a few more moves. Queen caps on b5, giving up a pawn in the process, but you're going to win the pawn, because you have to understand this is also a floating pawn, so somewhere along the line you're just going to capture that pawn as well. Rook to d1, but now just queen to d7, not allowing that to come with the tempo. But again, when you move that, you also make this weak, and if you play a move like this, then you come under the bishop shadow. So anything could have happened. But queen to b2 and just rook to a5, and again rook a c1, but just after going for this queen to a7, just trying to put pressure. There's only one move. I mean, you cannot go here, because bishop to h6, and you're just going to be losing the exchange. So here rook to c2, only move. But now just comes this knight to d7, and that knight was out of the game. It's going to be coming in with the tempo. So not something that you would want to do, but you could also play a move like this, and uh, keep the bishop very nicely, just not getting the knight into the game. And now once the rook moves, now you play a move like a4. So this is also in the position, because you could go, but this is like a drawish line. You have to understand that now cannot be captured. Somewhere along the line you can move the bishop back, and most likely it's going to be a draw, because after bishop to c6, you could go for rook a to c8 and rook d to c1. It's a different line, it's an engine line, but here after this rook to b1, you cannot capture, simply because this is hanging, so you have to be careful. Queen to b1, but now just comes rook captures, and once the rook moves away, now you play this very nice h4, knight to f6, g3, just get the king out of there, because there is as long as you have this light squared bishop, there is no actual pinning idea, so you're going to be absolutely fine. But once this knight moves in, then you have to understand that this knight is absolutely very, very strong and right in your face. Queen is also on this diagonal, rook is attacking your floating pawn, bishop is also targeting it. So it's just a very, very double-edged position. Anything had happened, and you have to calculate a lot. And it's for a rapid game, you need to be an absolute machine. Like, you need to be Fabiano Caruana to be able to win this game. But here after knight to d7, rook queen to c1, also a very nice idea. Somewhere along the line, this knight is going to jump in, and that pawn is going to be weak, so you could go for something like that. But here after knight to f6, just attacking the bishop, but you're not caring about that. And like, you can, because now the queen has to move, but now what do you do? I mean, you can actually go for a move like rook to b7, attacking the queen, but then again, if you go for rook to b7, then just queen to d6, and now once you ask for a queen trade, you have to trade the queens, because now the bishop is under attack. So once the knight moves back, trying to go for a better square, now you just play that, make some room for your king, but the king gets into the game, and black is not, black is supposed to be the one down in this game, and now black is up. So it's just not something you want to play, because after king to e7, rook to c7, rook goes to a4, trying to put some extreme pressure on this pawn. You just play bishop to e4, with the idea of trying to, sorry, not that, with the idea of trying to go for this. But now once this bishop to c6 comes in, now you just block it, but you can just trade everything. I mean, after trading everything, now you have this position again. That bishop is very strong, that pawn is going to be falling soon, so here just better yet, just give it up. There is no point. King to c6. Now you play knight to e5 check, bishop captures, and here once the rook moves, you could go for this f4. I know this is coming, but that's the best you have. Rook to c2, king to h3, and after a move like h6, because this is always, you know, capturable, there is no point in actually just going for it. Rook to d1, but here just king to c7, rook to d6, and now rook captures, rook caps on e6. It's still a draw. So if you want to go for a drawish line, you can, but after queen to b8, bishop to b1, very good move by Gukesh, but is it? Because now your pieces look so bad. It's not a bad move, like really bad move, like he played it like with 10 seconds on his clock, so at that time it was good. But then again, I mean, it's not a good move, because knight to d5, and now this is a very beautiful move. Dominguez found it with 6 seconds on his clock. That's how good he is, because you know, that knight that rook is under attack, and where are you moving the rook? Rook to c6, but now just going for this, and after rook to c4, this, and now h4. H4 is a beautiful move by Gukesh. I mean, making some breathing room, also having these ideas are just very good. But h5, stopping it immediately, queen to b2, and just bishop to f6. And also, you know, this is a very nice idea, because whenever this comes in the future, you have to understand that instead of this knight moving, you'll have a nice protection here also. You know, whenever you want to play this knight to g5, this bishop captures will be very nice. But now just going for this bishop to e4, a very beautiful centralizing move, but you know, getting it back there again, then going back, it's like, you know, you're just wasting tempos. There is nothing in the position, that's the thing. And if you wanted to go for a draw, you could have gone for a draw, but now you're playing for the win, and these are the moves. It's not good enough. Queen to a7, but now just rook to d2, again just defending that pawn. King to c7, rook d to c2, rook to d7, and just g3, trying to make room for the king, and also just trying to, you know, protect that pawn. Knight to f5. Now there is tremendous pressure on this pawn. I mean, yes, you're attacking it 3 times, but you're also defending it 3 times. But if a move like that comes, then, you know, there could be some issues. Rook to b4, but now just comes this rook to d6, king to g2, knight to e7. And Dominguez is also playing very solidly. You have to understand, this is like move 36, and both players are like seconds on the clock, but you have to understand that he's not made a single mistake right now. So knight to e5, that's a very nice move, but now just comes rook to a4, bishop to f3, but now just rook captures on b4, queen captures, and now just going with the rook back, because that rook was under attack, and also that knight is being protected, so you don't have to worry about this. Rook to c4, but now just comes this very nice queen to a5, and this queen to a5 comes with, and now you can see that that knight is being attacked, but then you have to understand that bishop is doing a very fine job there. Queen to b2, not trading more pieces, but now comes the issue. Queen to b2 is actually a mistake by Gukesh, not a mistake, but a little bit of an inaccuracy, because bishop caps on e5 now, and once you go d captures, now this is coming, and that's what I think Gukesh missed. Now you have to go for this, but after rook captures, queen captures, you just gobble up the d5 pawn, and now you're a pawn down in the position, and after the queens get traded off, I mean, it's going to be very much difficult to hold the position, even with, you know, it's 4-3, so most likely it's going to still be a draw, but then you are with the white pieces, you're playing for the win. So that's what Gukesh thought when he played this queen to b4, but it's a complete blunder. I think he thought that, you know, I'm just attacking the piece, maybe he's just going to be trading, and after this trade happens, everything would be fine. But now comes queen caps on a2, and you are getting checkmated here. Queen caps on e7, but just rook caps on f2, king to g1, and after rook caps on f3, it was on this move, on move 45, that current reigning world champion Gukesh Domínguez resigned the game, and rightfully so. There is nothing in this position. This is coming. There is no defense to that. I mean, whatever you do, you're not surviving this. So yeah, thank you all for watching. This is all for game 1, but I'll be coming back for game 2. Greetings everyone, this is actually game 2 of Gukesh. Gukesh now is matched up with Wesley So, another great American grandmaster, and this is not looking very good for him. Not because of the position, but you know, you have to place these very strong grandmasters, but then you realize, you know, come on, he's just like 18, 19 years old, and he's currently the world reigning champion. He's playing against these top grandmasters. You know, he's going to be learning so much, and you know, if you play against, like, you play these top grandmasters, once you come out of these, all of these preparation, all of these games, everything, no matter the result, it's going to be a great learning curve. Few years, they're going to be in the top, and there's going to be no one budging them like Magnus Carlsen. So that's, in that sense, you know, the his chess future looks really promising for India, and that's the thing. But you know, now we're gonna actually check out the game. I'm gonna be flipping the board, because Gukesh is playing with the black pieces, and let's see how it goes. E4 by Wesley, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. We go into the Italian game, bishop to c5, castles, and just knight to f6. We have d3, d6, but now just going for c3. Now just very nice a6, rook to e1, castles, and now just h3, not allowing any bishop jumps. And now just comes bishop to a7, a very beautiful move by Gukesh, and it sets up very nice things in this position. a4 by Wesley. And if you want to trick your opponents in this position, but you have to be very much careful that the knight and the rook are supposed to be there. So in this exact position, just get it in your head, you can play a move like b5. And if your opponent is greedy, a captures, and if they go for bishop captures, you have a very nice tactic. Bishop captures on f2, and now after king captures, now you go for this rook captures, and your piece is going to be hanging, so you have to be careful, but this knight is supposed to be there. So just a very nice tactic. You could go for it. If your opponent is greedy, they might fall for it. But here after a4, Wesley obviously he's not going to fall for it, and neither is Gukesh going to give it to him. h6, but now just comes this knight bd2, rook to e8, and now just b4. And very, very beautiful move by Gukesh. I mean, as soon as he played it, I just realized what he's trying to do. Because in the olden times, when I was learning chess, not that old, but it's not like I'm ancient or something. But in the times when I was learning chess, this move was absolute great. After bishop captures, you get this, you get a massive center, and most likely, just the game goes on. But here in this position, Gukesh goes for a very beautiful queen to e7, and also, Harshit and Sagar Bhai was also referring to all of these moves with the like rook to a2. In the future, you can move that rook to c2 or just e2, and also it protects f2 pawn in some of these lines. So that's absolutely a great move in this position. So people who play positional chess, this is absolutely gold mine for you. But queen to e7 with the idea that as soon as Gukesh played it, just something trigged in my mind, and I was just thinking about, what if you go knight to d8? That's absolutely the best move in this position. That's what you're supposed to do, because here after you get that knight to d6, knight to f4, all of these ideas are just very, very good in this position. Sometimes maybe even sacking the bishop there. So all of these ideas are just there in the position, and that's absolutely looking really great. Rook to b1, but now just going for this bishop to e6, just going as planned. But here just b5, and immediately Gukesh goes for a captures. And normally, you would want to actually just capture it right away, but Wesley here thought for 3 minutes, and that's absolutely insane. I mean, why are you thinking for 3 minutes? But it's rightfully so, because Wesley goes for rook captures on b5, and this looks very, very weird, because why are you capturing with the rook? But the idea is that you create an outside pass pawn, and maybe you're just trying to push it all the way, but it's just very difficult. Knight to d7 now, but just queen to c2. Instead of this queen to c2, you could also go for this rook caps on b7, but you have to understand that if you are being too greedy here, then comes bishop to b6, and well, all of these has formed a cage around you, and there's nothing you could do. And now the moves that we have to find are the only moves that's there in the position. Bishop to b5, knight to d8, now attacking the rook, but now just comes this rook caps on b6, knight captures, and here after bishop caps on e8, queen captures. That's the only move that's going to get you out of that cage, no other move. So you can keep all these tactics in hand. Someday when you play these variations, you could utilize this. But after knight to d7, we have queen to c2 by Wesley, but just bishop to b6, and now comes this bishop captures, queen captures, knight to c4. And now you have to be very much careful, because after this captures, if you decide to capture with the knight, then all of these ideas become available, and that's exactly what Wesley goes for. Rook to a6, but just knight captures, rook captures here, not going for knight captures. And actually, it's my bad, he didn't go for rook captures. Rook captures was the best move in the position, but instead what was played was actually just knight just not knight captures, but Gukesh went for the c captures, doubling up the pawn, but also putting some pressure here. But now bishop to e3 by Wesley, and now just rook to a5 Gukesh played, and that's absolutely insane. Gukesh has to be very much careful, because this is looking very, very, very insane in this. And so let's see what happens. And here in this position, Gukesh goes for rook a to e8, but now just rook to a1, defending everything, keeping an eye on everything. But now comes knight to e7, just trying to remaneuver those knights and get them to the right squares. But rook to a1, now too much pressure. Now it has to be released, and Gukesh does it with rook caps on a4, now giving up that. So here just bishop captures, but now just going for this knight captures, rook captures on b6, but now just going for this very nice knight to g6. Idea is that you can give up this pawn, but you have to understand that that knight on f4 is going to be super, super strong, and then all of those ideas become available. Rook going here, maybe you can get the second rook in, maybe you can just sacrifice in some lines. So all of those ideas Wesley has to keep in mind, and in a rapid game you're not surviving that. Hey, just rook caps on b7 was played, but now just comes this knight to f4 as planned. So many ideas in this position, and keeping an eye out for everything is like, the recipe for disaster. But you have to understand that you have to do that. You have to calculate every lines. But when you get so much time, it's not a classical round, it's a rapid round, so you have to understand it's very difficult. So Wesley plays a very beautiful move, king to h2. Now, no more sacrifices, no more nothing here in this position, but just rook to a2. Rook to a2 is a very beautiful move. Only move is you have to get this rook blocking. So rook blocks, so not that rook blocks, but different rook blocks. Rook 7 to b2, but now just rook captures, and rook to a1, cutting off the king in the entire back rank. So there are many beautiful ideas here of mating net. Here just knight to h4 was played, just not letting the king queen come here. And if you go for a move like g5 in this position, the knight occupies that f4 f5 square, then all of those ideas become available. Your king gets weak as well, you have some back rank issues as well. So you don't want to go for something like this. But that's why Gukesh in this position chooses to go for g6, which is an amazing move. I mean, here just knight to f3 comes, but now just king to g7, knight to g1, now just queen to c8. And Gukesh is trying to mount the pressure still, because anyway you can just come in and play moves like that. So you have to be very much careful as as white. G3 by Wesley, but now just comes this beautiful knight to e6, still mounting the pressure. And I'm going to tell you how. Knight to f3, but now just comes this queen to a6, and after this queen to e2, queen to a3. Only move in this position that you have to find is actually queen to c2. Otherwise, there are various chances of maybe the whatever you do, if this comes in, then you're just over. The game is absolutely over. If the queen and the rook gets a battery on the back rank, when you have no place to go as with your king, it's absolutely over. So queen to c2 by Wesley, and this is where you understand that 27-2800s grandmaster are so powerful. Wesley found this move with just 15 seconds on his clock. I mean, not 15 seconds, but he took just 15 seconds off his clock, and that's how powerful Wesley is. Knight to c5 in this position, but just comes this knight to d2. And now, keeping an eye out for everything, there is a beautiful drawing sequence in this position that goes with knight captures on d3. And here, after you play a move like knight to c4 attacking the queen, you sacrifice the queen with a beautiful sequence that goes with knight to e1. Once you capture, you get this check, king goes, this check, king goes, and this is a very nice draw in this position that was found. But here, after knight to d2, just queen to a6 with just 15 seconds on his clock, he's still trying to win this game. That's what the determination that you need, that's the resolve that you need to have as the world champion. In order to be the world champion, this is what you need. Even in these kinds of situations where you've lost the first round, you want to get to the top and you want to win the games, and that's what you need in this position. Knight to c4, but now just comes this knight caps on e4, and it's a blunder by Wesley, thinking that it's still fine. But there are so many tactics at play in this. If you capture now, you've just lost the piece. So there is no point in going for something like this. So just rook to b6 was played, attacking the queen, but you still have to keep an eye out for this knight. Once this capture occur, you want to be attacking this knight. So queen to c8, still keeping an eye out. But now comes this h4, just making some room for the king. But now comes this very beautiful knight to f6, remaneuvering the knight for going for all of those ideas. But knight caps on d6, attacking the queen, and Gukesh finds this move with 2 seconds on his clock. Queen to c5, only winning move. Queen to b2 was played, attacking the rook, but it doesn't work because Gukesh, with like 2 seconds on his clock, played this knight to g4, and now comes this king to g2. Idea being that here, after queen to d5 check, this is the only move that wins. King moves, knight blocks, and now you can get this very nice, very nasty rook to a2. And Gukesh has only 15 seconds on his clock. Queen to b5, but now just comes this rook captures, and now once the king goes, you have to understand this is checkmate. So here, the only move that's winning, you want to find out, just pause the video, but I'm showing here just h5, and Gukesh plays it with 5 seconds on his clock. Here, rook captures was tried by Wesley to try and get into some perpetual, but just f captures, and it was also on this move, on move 45, that Wesley So, a really strong American grandmaster, resigns the game, because if you capture it here, then basically your queen is hanging. So there is no point in going for that, or otherwise this is just checkmate. So there is nothing that you can do in this position. You can just capture this, but that will be checkmate and your game will be over. And he realized it, and the game ended in a beautiful sequence where Gukesh is still on the way to try and maybe have some luck in blitz and maybe just win the tournament or get at least a spot in the top 3. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with game 3. Let's see how that goes, because Gukesh has played this brilliantly, and this is what shows true strength, and Gukesh has shown that he has it. And this is game 3, and Fabi has been obliterating every single opponent. opponent. Out of the 16 matches he's played in Rapid, he has gotten 14 points. That's just absolutely insane. He's won against every single person. You like get 2 points every game, so every win, and draw like is like 1 point for Rapid, but in Blitz, like a win is for like 1 point you get, and I think draw is 0.5. So that's absolutely insane that he has 14 points out of 16. He's crushing everyone, and now Gukesh has to face him, but he has the white pieces, so let's see what he does. So without further ado, let's start with this game. This is going to be one epic one. E4 e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and now just bishop to c5. We go into the Juco piano. C3 by Gukesh, knight to f6, d3 by Gukesh, d6, which is castles, h6, and rook to e1. And this game is absolutely going to show you how much these absolutely top class grandmasters, how much they are absolutely they are so insanely prepped that it's just so difficult to beat them. Castles h3, a5, knight bd2, a4, and just going for this bishop to b5, and bishop to d7, knight to f1, and just knight to e7. And now comes this bishop caps on d7. Like Gukesh maybe just prepared this, but this is also like most likely, this is what you play, simply because of the fact that once this comes, your just bishop is going to be trapped, so you have to be careful about that. Knight captures, and d4 now, bishop to b6, but just this knight to g3 was played, and Fabi in this position plays the absolute best engine move, which is this f5. Opening up the rook, bishop is already on this diagonal. Maybe somewhere along the line, you can just get the knight as well. Somewhere that knight will jump here, that this knight is very strong as well. Also help out, somewhere along the line here as well. This is just such a beautiful position, such a beautiful move. This is so amazing. But by the way, this was not even the preparation I was talking about, because here, let's say, in this position, the best move for you is just to capture. Knight captures on f5 is the only move in this position that does not lose. Knight captures, you play e captures, rook captures, and now just go for bishop to e3. E captures, bishop captures, queen to f8, queen to c2, but now just comes this rook to f4, bishop captures on e6, you trade everything, and now after rook to e2, you try and double up here, but first, black is asking for it, so you just trade queens, and now once you get this double up, like the game is fine. But here after queen to d3, here there is a very very beautiful queen to d3 does not work. Here f5, you pick queen to d3, it's lost. But I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try and find out the only winning move in this position. Just remember the structure. There is a very beautiful move that can come here, and congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. And the move is this beautiful d5. And if you play d5 and you get this, you better run because there is not much you can do, because the sequence I'm about to show you here is it's just so insane. This is so complicated. You cannot calculate everything in a rapid game, definitely not. E captures, you played on d5, e4 now. So you might be thinking, I'm just losing a piece, why not do it with 3 extra pawns? If you go for knight captures, pawn captures, queen captures, yes, you have enough, but only temporarily, simply because of the fact that your bishop and the rook are not that much into the game. You've sacrificed a piece for some momentum. Yes, this is being threatened, but once that moves anywhere, then you have to understand that there is not much you can do, because, well, how do you start an attack? What do? You have a check, you're threatening to pick up the knight, but if as soon as that is defended, there is not much to do. So that's that's the entire point about this. Yes, this bishop is locked up, and there are some ideas of like c4 c5, but other than that, there is not too much in this position. And once black consolidates, black is still better in this position. So here after e4, you have to understand queen to c4 is the only move that gives you some sort of a playing advantage, not playing advantage, but playing in this position, because here after rook to f7, blocking this check, and also blocking this, winning a piece. So now you go for knight to d2, but just knight to f6. Now there is no way for you to defend this pawn, so you have to go back, queen to e2, but just knight captures. And after knight to c4, you just go here, knight captures, and now just going for knight to h5, but you get this queen jumping in, and now there is too much pressure here. King to h2, you play this knight to d5, knight to e2. Look at these knights, they're absolute monsters. These pawns are pushing in. Look, rook can double up on the f file, queen is already targeting this. How do you even defend in this position? This is so bad. And in the rapid game, when you have low time on the clock, this is not working out. Just a few more moves later, you'll see that the position absolutely crumbling apart, and there is not much you can do. Even if you trade queens here, still black is better. And you cannot survive this. Queen to d3, but not going for f4. Fabi not going for this, but Fabi went for f4 in this position, and I think that's the only move that saved Gukesh, because hereafter knight to f1, king to h8, and instead of this king to h8, you could in this position actually go for a very beautiful line with g5. But we have calculated so much here. B4, you play a captures, queen to B1, rook capture, and that comes with a check, so the king needs to move. But here after bishop to B2, now you can see that the position will be really really bad, because after knight to C4, H5, you play H4, but this is coming. King can just move out of the way. All of this can come in, and I mean, it's not even a good position to have. I'm not going to calculate everything, because it's just crazy engine lines, you cannot calculate everything. But here you can see that the position is so complicated that it's like very difficult for Gukesh to do anything in this position, because after queen to D3, F4 was played. Now knight to F1, king to H8, but after this knight 1 to H2, you play knight to G6 and bishop to D2. C5, now C5 was a beautiful move by Fabi, simply because of the fact it gives Gukesh the, like, I'm throwing the torch to you, you play, you tell me what you want to do, you tell me how you want me to play this position. I have analyzed everything at home. It's like that's what Fabi is saying to Gukesh right now, because if you go here, knight captures, knight captures, knight captures, and this knight is there to stay. There is nothing you can do. You cannot even capture, because that is being defended. There is nothing in this position that you can do. It comes with an attack on the queen. Queen moves back, and you have to understand that slowly but surely, this knight, whenever it will move, there will be so many ideas there in the position, and it's just very difficult to do anything. Here just D captures was played. D captures is not the best move. You want to push that pawn to D5, simply because of the fact that once this comes, this is a beautiful pawn sacrifice in this position, because if you capture this, then you have to understand this bishop gets alive, rook comes into the game with some tempos, and this is very very good, because knight can also jump in. If you trade, then just queen captures, and also that will come with an attack. So I mean, it's a very very amazing position for Fabi that Fabi has created. It's a masterpiece. But here after C5, D captures, Gukesh goes for, because he thinks that D5 must be just not good. But after knight captures on C5, queen to C2 and queen to C7, and let's see where this goes. This is absolutely insane and a beautiful masterpiece wherever this way goes. And here in this position, Gukesh goes for rook a d1. We have rook f to d8 and just rook to e2. And now we have queen to f7. There are a lot of ideas in this position. You have to be very much careful. Pawn pushing, knight getting in the positions. You could even play some moves like queen going here, knight getting here, even pushing the pawn. I mean, when the time comes, it's just insane position. Fabi is better, but Gukesh has to defend the entire position. We have c4, but now just comes knight to e7, and I think in the entire event there is only one person who can defend this well, and that is absolutely Gukesh. From coming to absolutely winning positions to making Magnus bang the table, he can do this, but he has to be very precise while doing it. Knight to e1 was played by Gukesh, but just knight to c6, and now we have knight h2 f3, but now just king to h7, and this king to h7 is like a waiting move, saying like, what are you going to do, how are you going to get your pieces intact? All of my pieces are on absolutely amazing squares, covering all of your pieces, and also I'm just threatening to play g5, getting the rook here, and pushing all those pawns all the way. What are you doing in this position? Just knight to d3 was played by Gukesh. That's not a good move, but that's a move that maybe, just maybe, gives Gukesh that just one chance where he's able to just bounce back in the game. Here g5 was played immediately by Fabi. Fabi knew that he's winning, but here just knight to b4. This knight to b4 is just keeping pieces on the board and waiting for Fabi to just make one inaccuracy, just slight inaccuracy where he can pounce in, and that's exactly what he's waiting for, because here just rook to g8 was played by Fabi. He's playing precise game, and he's not backing down because he knows that he's winning. Just bishop to c3, but now it comes g4, and now how do you defend anything? If you capture, just rook captures, queen to h5, rook is coming in, everything is falling apart. The knights are covering these squares. If this knight moves, there are also possible ideas of going here. There is absolutely nothing for Gukesh in this position, but then again he fights on. He plays immediately h captures, rook captures, and now he's actually up 5 minutes, 5 minutes up than Fabi, and he takes all that time to calculate, because now you have to understand that he's down, he's -4 in this, and this is how worse the position is. But you're gonna realize what happens now, because rook captures on d6, only move in this position that gives something to white, just something to hope for. And in this position you have to go queen to h5. The idea is that after you go queen to h5, you just sacrifice here and then get the rook into the game after king captures, and that's the only move in this position that you can play. But there is just so much here going on. Fabi's down the clock as well. He has 3 minutes 48 seconds, and Gukesh has well over 7.5 minutes. So that's why when you play faster, you can actually do good things. Rook a to g8 was played by Fabi, and that's not a good move. You can see his advantage going away with the engine on the left hand side. But here, after knight to d5 was played, now you can see that there are a lot of ideas. You cannot go here right now, because simply because this fork, and it's not a royal fork, it's a mega royal ultima fork. There is nothing here that you can do. There is not even a single piece, I mean not even a single huge piece that's not being hit by this knight. So you cannot go there. Now you have to wait. Rook captures on g2 was played, but you don't go anywhere else. You just go for king to f1. And now there is no check because this knight is covering the square. Bishop to g8 now. Bishop to g8 is not a good move. That bishop was hit. You were supposed to sacrifice it and get the queen into the game, but now you couldn't do that. So you're just covering that square. But you have to understand that there is a very, very beautiful move, and there is just one move in this position for Gukesh to save the game. I'm asking you to pause the video again one more time in this game and just find this move. You will love yourself if you're able to find this move, because this is just one move that saves the game. And that move is this beautiful rook captures on d8. And that's absolutely so resilient. And this is the reason why he's the world champion, because he's able to find these moves where no one thinks that he can hold this position, but he's able to find this move. And knight caps on d8, and now comes the idea, bishop caps on e5. Lot of pressure here, and you have to calculate everything. And Fabi has just 4 minutes on the clock. Gukesh has 4.5 minutes. Knight to d7, but now just king starts to run away. Either this was the best move, or either king starts to run away, and both are the moves that saves the game here. But still, Fabi's better. He has to find the right moves. He goes for the best move, which is knight to e6, just getting this knight into the game, and just just throwing that knight on your opponent's face, and I'm still better, I'm still winning. But here, just queen captures on a4, just grabbing a pawn here in the midst of all these attacks. The best was again queen to c3, just keeping an eye on everything. This is coming, so just keeping an eye on everything. That was the best move. But here, after knight to g5, now comes this knight captures on g5. Here's the blunder, here's the inaccuracy, and Gukesh pounces on it. And now this rook captures, but now you know what's coming. You have to understand that the position is better. Position is absolutely better for you, but you have to find the one move. And if you're able to find this queen captures on d7, you're going to be beating yourself for the rest of the game, simply because of the fact that now you must be thinking queen captures, and now, well, amazing, just fork and I'm just winning the game. I've just captured a piece. But no, it doesn't work like that, because now this check, this comes in, and now the game is absolutely lost for you, because now queen captures comes with a pin. There is no fork, and you have lost the game. And Gukesh was able to find out this tactic existed with just 5 seconds on the clock. That's how good he is, because he played this bishop to d4 in this position, and now the same tactic actually works, because bishop is just blocking, and now you can actually go for that and completely win the game. But just knight to e5, and now comes this queen to b3, and knight goes back, just attacking the bishop. The bishop needs to either go back or move forward. He goes for bishop to c6 here, bishop to f6 here, and attacking the rook. This is the only winning move in this position. Can you believe it? He finds it with 20 seconds on the clock. Rook to g6, but now just comes queen to c3, and queen to c3 is absolutely amazing and absolutely working here. h5 by Fabi, but h5 does not work. He was very much down on the clock. With 2 seconds he played this move, h5. It's absolutely insane. e5 is the only winning move in this position that Gukesh found out with like 20 seconds on the clock. Queen to e6, but now just comes this knight caps on f4, and now this fork is there in this position. You have to give a check. Rook to g1 check was played, king moves, and now queen to d7 check. But here you have to block with the knight, and there is no way you're going to lose this game. But here queen to d3 was played, and there is some hope for Fabi after all. Queen caps on d3, king captures, but just this rook goes here, but just king to e4. And now Fabi has to find out just one move in this position. You can pause the video right here and you can try it out. There is just one move for Fabi that saves the game. He has been an incredible attacker throughout the game with everything that he got on the table, trying to beat the world champion. But in this position, Fabi has to find the only defensive resource that Gukesh has been finding with 20 seconds on the clock. Absolute best moves, and you can try your luck here and have at it. But the move actually is this beautiful knight to d4, captures, and you might be able to hold this position. But he does not find it. He goes for h4 in this position and just completely blunders the game. Now comes f3, only winning move. You know why? Because now wherever the rook moves, you can go to rook to h2 and you're gonna pick up the h pawn, and there is nothing black can do about this. Knight to d4 played now, but it's a bit too late. Rook to h2, rook to e1 check, king captures, rook to f4 check, king moves, and now hit this. But now just comes this bishop caps on h4. It is also hitting the rook, so you have to move the rook. Rook to d1 check. And the best way for here to win this game for Gukesh is just to go for this king to e6. But instead he goes king to c5 and just loses a lot of his advantage. But again, he's still winning. He has to keep his nerves together. King to f5, but now just bishop to f6. Everything is defended here. The move that Fabi had to play in this position actually is just this rook to d4. Hitting this, and there is no way you can do anything. If you try to go for there, then it doesn't work because of the fact that, you can just capture this pawn and that comes with the check. So that was the idea, but he misses this. He goes for something else. What did he go for? Yeah, he went for king here, but then again it just doesn't work. Bishop to f6, but now just come rook caps on f3, king to rook to h7. Now just picking up the final pawn in black's camp. Rook to a1, rook captures, but now just b4, and those pawns are pushing forward. Rook to c2 was played, but just rook to c7, rook f to c3. Now just going after this pawn, all you have to do is just move away. King to b5, absolutely best, played with like 19 seconds on the clock. Rook to b3, but now just comes this king to a4, rook to b1, and now just going for a5. You have to be careful with moves like this. This is going to be checkmate, and you don't want to fall for something like that. King to a5, rook to a2 check, king to b5, rook to b2, and now just going for bishop to e7, giving up the e5 pawn. But now you save that pawn. Now you can just push this, and it's still not easy. King captures on e5 was played, bishop to f8, king to e4, and just rook to d7, rook to f1, bishop to g7. But now just comes this c5, rook to c1, and king to rook to d6. He's slowly but surely just pushing those pawns up. Now comes king to f5, but just c6. Now attacking the bishop, but just bishop to d4 was the best idea, but you can still go for this because your rook is under attack. Rook to c2, now going for bishop to d4, idea being that you just block it and push it away, or you could also play this and push it away. And here rook to g8, but just bishop to b6 going as planned. Rook to b8, king to a6, rook to a2 check, king to b5, and just rook to c2. But now comes this rook to h6. This endgame is so beautiful. You could analyze it for ages, and the way he's made a comeback in this game, this is the absolute reason why he's just so hard to beat, because at the time when he needs it, he finds these moves with so much down on the clock, and that's why he's able to beat his opponents every single time. King to e5, but now just comes this rook to h7. Now that pawn is being pushed. There is not much you can do about this. King to e6, rook to b7 was played. If you trade, you're lost. So he just rook to c8, bishop to c5, rook to a2, and now just rook to e7 check, king to d5, rook to d7 check, king to e6, and now just going for this rook to e7 check, king to d5, and just c7, finally pushing that. All you have to do is just get the king into the game. But now comes this rook a to a8, rook to d7 check, king to e6, rook to d6 check, king to e5, and just king to d6 as planned. Rook to g8, king to b7. Now all of this is coming, but you still cannot push because neither can you play this. You have to be very much careful. Rook a to a8, but now just b5, king to e4, b6, and now rook to g7. Now you cannot push, neither can you play this because this would be pinned. That would be a very terrible blunder. But now in this position, Gukesh goes for this beautiful king to c6, and now you're just pushing those pawns, and there is nothing black can do about this. It was on this move, on move 89, just before reaching move 90, that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, and from being completely winning, Gukesh was able to turn it around on his head, and he won this game spectacularly, beating the tournament leader who's had 14 out of 16 points. Is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. There is no doubt about that. It's just so amazing. This position is that it's absolutely amazing. This could be compared to the time when someone was also in the stream asking that, is Fabi going to bang the table? I mean, that's just besides the point. But again, great resilience by Fabi, great play by Fabi. But Gukesh, I mean, we are so proud of you. The way this game has been, it's absolutely incredible, and he's shown some of the world-class resilience that he has, and won this game in a spectacular way. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you all.